lot to get to. And here with us now is Paul Rieckhoff, host of the Independent Americans podcast, also founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America. Paul, thank you so much. A lot to talk to. I just want to ask you first, what was your reaction when you heard that garbage comment?
Not good. Right? Not good.
I mean, do you think the cleanup is working? Do you think that...
I honestly don't think a lot of these last-minute fumbles or attacks are going to land. I think we're down to the point where Trump supporters are supporting Trump, Harris supporters are supporting Harris, and there's a small number of people that they're fighting over, mostly in Pennsylvania and swing states, and most of America's watching the World Series. They're checked out. They're over this. And I think it's really going to come down to a moment of conscience for these critical independent voters. When they go into the booth, they're going to have to choose between the lesser of two evils, and we don't know where they're going to be. So I think a lot of this is last-minute furies that aren't going to register and aren't really going to land. It makes for good cable news chatter. It makes for good political attacks. But at the end of the day, I don't think most Americans are paying attention to every single thing that comes out of their mouths.
Well, it certainly doesn't help with social media. I mean, it's getting around and people are talking about it, but tomorrow brings another day and something else could be happening. Let's take a listen to Vice President Harris's speech last night in D.C. I want to get your reaction.
We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
All right, so she's also talking about unity while Biden had the garbage comment. So is this the kind of thing that independent voters want to hear? I talked to an independent voter over the weekend on our show, and she was saying that she is still right down the middle, still undecided, trying to figure out what she's going to do as an independent.
I think a lot of independents are thinking about how they feel and what they're comfortable with. And I think maybe the most important takeaway, again, this was happening just about around the same time as the World Series.
Right.
So people are seeing clips. I think what the campaign is trying to do with Harris is get you used to the idea of her as president, her looking presidential, right? The visual of her in front of Washington with the flags, looking presidential is something that they're trying to get independents over the hump. They know some folks aren't comfortable with her as commander-in-chief, and they're not comfortable with Trump. And I think that's ultimately going to be the test here. Who do they feel comfortable with? Who looks like they can handle this, and who can be composed, who can be unifying, and who can go above the partisanship? I think that's what independents continue to look for, who can actually bring people together and move us forward. They're thinking about the future, not just the past, and that's Harris's opportunity here, is to say, okay, if you're tired of the past, maybe I'm a future, but am I a future you're comfortable with?
Right.
That's where she continues to struggle, especially with non-college educated men and other people in the key swing states.
Yeah, but you talk about the past. I mean, she stood in the very same spot as Trump did for his speech on January 6, 2021. So do you think that that was a effective way to go with the symbolism?
I do, but I think it's a lot of the same stuff. I mean, we're at that point where they need new voices. I think last week, General John Kelly broke through because he was a new voice. People like General McChrystal have broken through, Mark Cuban and others, and I think that's the key here. Can you move people in key swing states? Even Mick Foley, the WWF wrestler, was rolled out. I know Mick Foley. He's been on my show. He's been an independent in the past. Is there a new voice that can move a new group of people? That's why they're also going into new audiences. They're talking to Joe Rogan. They're getting out to sports. They're trying to get to the people who aren't watching the news every day and can still be moved. And that's a small number of people, but they know who they are, and they're fighting over that couple of thousand that will ultimately determine the election and maybe one swing state, and trying to also eliminate the threat of people like RFK Jr., who is going to be on the ballot now in 2 states, Jill Stein in Michigan and others. They think they can pull away from. If they can pull a couple thousand votes away from those other third-party candidates, then that might be the difference.
We're taking a live look right now at the vice president in Pennsylvania as, man, they are busy. They have been really busy. I don't know when anybody is getting any rest. We also want to ask you about the Senate. There's a race in Nebraska that is surprisingly close. Independent candidate Dan Osborne, who you have endorsed, has a slight lead over incumbent Republican Deb Fischer in the polling average. So what is he doing that is connecting with voters? And can you give any tips to anybody?
He's talking straight and honest. He sounds real. He's a mechanic. He's a Navy veteran. He's got tattoos. He's not wearing a suit all the time. He looks more like
people like that.
People like it. He's a straight talker, and he's saying he's going to challenge both parties. He's going to challenge corporations. He's going to challenge the status quo. He's a renegade. He's a maverick, and he's something different. And I think his voice is very, very powerful, and you're going to see both parties try to copy him, but he is authentically independent, and he's in position to take down an incumbent Republican senator that's dumping tens of millions of dollars against him. This could be the biggest breakout story, not just for independents, but for our politics. This could be the future of what politics in America looks like.
All right, I got to ask you, because I ask everybody, when will this race be called? How long are we hanging around after Election Day to find out what the results will be? What do you think?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. You guys here in Newsnation maybe know better than I do, but I think we're in for a long week. I'm glad we've got the World Series now to distract us and bring us together around something that's positive and unifying, because next week is going to be ugly. And I would encourage everybody to stay calm, stay respectful.
Right.
Remember, we're all Americans, and our enemies are watching. They want to see us ripped apart. They want to see us divided. And now's a good time to keep your emotions low and focus on your country.
All right, Paul Rykoff, we want to thank you so much. We'll see you on Election Day one way or another. We've got our cameras everywhere, so it's going to be an interesting week for sure.